Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now, what I'm going to talk about in this video, this is a case we are following or we have been following. It's all gone a little bit quiet at the moment because it'll be in the process of preparing the case, etc. And this is the absolutely tragic deaths of Rob and Michele at the hands of their own son, Nick. And the reason that I'm talking to you about it today is their other son, Jake, has released a Substack, like an essay, a statement, if you like, on sort of what he's going through, really, on how this has affected him. And he makes it very clear he's speaking for himself. He has a sister, of course, Romy. He's not speaking for her. He said she will make her own, she will make her own statement or she will speak for herself. And I was just so very struck by it because apart from the fact it's a lovely piece of writing, the emotion, the love that he obviously felt for his parents and probably for his brother also. And I think there's probably more parents than you know going through these kind of problems with their children, adult children, for various reasons, mental health, drug addiction, alcoholism, or a combination of everything. And the thing is, when it's your own child, however old they are, it's very difficult to deal with because you're so bound up emotionally. Um, this is your child. You don't want to go to the police, report your child to the police. You don't want to tell people all the horrible things your child maybe is doing to you or saying to you. You're always trying to protect your child, however old they are. And, I remember a psychologist saying to me, it was a family situation, um, that the relationship between a parent and a child is different from which way you look at it. In other words, the emotions that parents feel for their children is different from the emotions that a child feels for their parents, especially when they become adults. They get resentful, or they can get resentful. Not all children appreciate everything their parents do for them, and sometimes it doesn't matter what they do for them. The child feels aggrieved. The adult child feels grieved for whatever reason. Whatever they do isn't enough. It's a very tricky situation. Whereas, as far as the parents are concerned, that's their child. They love their child unconditionally, no matter what they do. They may be difficult to love, and there may be times that they don't like them very much. But the love that they feel is different from the love someone feels for a parent. It's quite an eye opener, that, really, because you just always, especially if you love your parents, because you know what, no parents are perfect. My parents weren't perfect, but I still love them, and I loved them even then, even though I was aggrieved at things. I think we all go through this stage, don't we? Particularly teenagers, but luckily most of us grow out of it, where we do blame our parents for everything. We do resent every little thing they do wrong. They can do a million things right, and they do one thing wrong, and we hate them for it. I think that's quite typical of adolescence. But of course, the problems are really bad when people don't grow out of it. that they don't mature and realise that their parents did the best for them, even though they might have done it wrong. They might have cocked it up. Now, not all parents do the best for their kids, of course, but I don't feel this in this case. You just get the impression, I mean, especially because of what Jake says. Rob and Michele were very good parents, and they tried their very best to save Nick from himself, really. I don't think there was much more they could do for him. And not only they couldn't save him from himself, very sadly, they couldn't save themselves from him. And Nick went on to brutally murder them. And as I say, we don't know all the details properly yet because it's going to come to a court case. Do we even really want to know all the details? It's just such a sad case, this. I mean, all cases are sad, but some are sadder than others. You know, two parents who tried their very best and just whatever they tried didn't work, did it? So then, putting yourself in Jake's position, you've got a young man who's lost his parents in a horrible, vicious way, which would be bad enough, wouldn't it, if they'd been attacked by some random person. But the fact that it is his own brother who has done this to his parents, that's a very, very heavy burden to carry, isn't it, for Jake? He'll be torn between the love for his brother. I mean, presuming he loves him. Not all siblings get on. I don't know what situation was between them. It's like Nick is like almost a black sheep, isn't he? But I expect Rob and Michele loved all their children the same. But just Nick was maybe that little bit harder to love. But I'm sure they still loved him, and they certainly tried their best for him, as they've probably done for all their children. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to read out what Jake has written in his Substack, and I think it's beautiful, and I think it gives us a really good insight into Rob and Michele as parents. You know, I don't know if Nick's going to try and paint, you know, do something like what those brothers did, that tried a picture of the parents being abusive, etc. I think he would struggle to do this because there are two other siblings who can testify, you know, that they weren't, that they were loving parents that couldn't have done any more. But very sadly, it didn't work. So I'm going to read it out. I just first of all want to tell you a little bit about Jake. So he was born on May the 2nd in 1991. He's an American actor, writer, and former journalist, the eldest biological son of the late filmmaker Rob Reiner and photographer Michele Singer Reiner. Now, I want to tell you about his career and background. So apparently, according to AI, I'm asking AI, I'll confess, he previously worked as a television news reporter and anchor, notably for KPRC Channel 2 in Houston, before returning to Los Angeles to pursue acting and writing. His acting credits include roles in Things Like This in 2025, Shock and Awe in 2017, and Flipped in 2010. And he does a podcast. He hosts the Incline Dodgers podcast, which covers Los Angeles Dodgers baseball. So that's a little bit about him. And of course, because he is also the grandson of the legendary comedian and filmmaker Carl Reiner. So, that is his family legacy. That's a little bit about him. And now if I'm being absolutely honest, I didn't know who he was before. Anyway, let's read what he's got to say about his mother and father and this terrible experience, that he's very sadly having to go through. So he's titled it very simply, Mum and Dad, or Mom and Dad, I should say it the American way, the centre of my life. And I've just felt like I was going to cry then, because looking at this picture, in happier times, of Rob and Michele and Jake. And Jake, of course, was the firstborn. I think he is the oldest. I'm not sure if Rom is older than him or not, but he's definitely the oldest of the two brothers. That's a beautiful photo. That family bliss, it looks like. Just so sad, isn't it? Just perhaps a good job we don't know what's in front of us, hey? On the afternoon of December 14, I was in Union Station at Celebration of Life for one of my best friends, Christian Anderson, who died in October. So he'd just lost a friend and he was at his celebration of life. It was at that moment I received a call from my sister Romy telling me our father was dead. And minutes later, sorry, it's very emotional, she called back telling me our mother was dead. The 45-minute lift ride from downtown to the west side was unendurable. My world as I knew it had collapsed. I was in a trance. The only thing I could focus on was that I needed to get to my childhood home. I needed to get to my sister. I needed to figure out what the hell just happened. This is my story. Romy will tell hers in her own way and in her time. I was robbed of so many things that day. My parents won't be at my wedding. They won't get to hold their future grandchild. And they won't get to see me have the successful career I'm still seeking. It simultaneously breaks my heart and enrages me. There must be a lot of anger there, I think. I've got 4 siblings. Sadly, my older brother, he's no longer with us. But thinking about when we were growing up, and when there's quite a big age difference between me and my siblings. I was sort of like the baby of the family, if you like, and I was just thinking about it. Imagine if my brother, one of my brothers, or even my sisters, had done that to my parents. The anger you would feel. You would feel so much anger, wouldn't you? Anyway, so he goes on to say, nothing can prepare you for what it feels like to lose both parents instantly at the same time. It's too devastating to comprehend. I still wake up every morning having to convince myself that no, it's not a dream. This truly is my living nightmare. Yeah, must be surreal. I can't even begin to put myself in my parents' shoes. But one thing I keep coming back to is how frightened they must have been. They were the last people in the world to deserve what had happened to them. They deserved to be loved. They deserved to be respected. And above all, they deserved to be appreciated for how much they gave to all 3 of us and to the world. They should be enjoying the rest of their lives peacefully while growing older together. Instead, that was ripped away from them, from me, from Romy, and there was nothing we could do about it. To me, my parents are at the center of my life. They are my guiding lights, the foundation of who I am as a human being, and the most giving people I have ever known. A lot of people don't have the luxury of having the best parents, the best mum, or the best dad, but I did. The love they have for me, my brother, and my sister is truly unconditional. And the love they have for each other in their marriage is something I always looked up to as the standard of what a successful relationship looks like. Oh, look, there he is with his mum. Now, so ironic, isn't it? Looking, listen to what he's saying about his parents. But Nick hated them that much. He murdered them. But Nick was the one that they helped the most because he needed help the most, didn't he? They spent fortunes on psychologists and detox and you name it, they tried to do it with Nick. And it's brought to my mind, other cases where people either kill, young people kill their parents or go off the rails. And it particularly makes me think of the Southport attacker, in the UK, who killed those beautiful little three little girls. His parents, have come under a lot of flack, haven't they, for maybe not reporting him, how dangerous he was, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's true. And that's what was found in the recent inquiry. But, I think more sort of studies need to be made on this because I don't think unless you've been through that, dealing with somebody who's got mental illness like that, your own son or daughter or loved one of any kind, nobody, I think, should judge. Because if we look at Michele and Rob Reiner, look at their resources, millionaires. They had every resource at their fingertips. You imagine, and they couldn't cope with him. They couldn't save him and they couldn't save themselves. I suppose it's just as easy that Nick could have gone out and killed other people as well. But what I'm trying to say is then the parents of the Southport attacker who don't have the resources, that the Rainers had, but perhaps we should just cut them a little bit of slack. I'm sure there's a million things now they would look back at and think, what, we should have done this, we should have done that, but they did try and get help for him. They were unsuccessful because there is a mental health crisis around the world. And trying to get help for your child, for your parents, for your brother, for your sister, for your husband, for your wife, trying to get help, mental health help, unless you can afford to pay for it, is virtually impossible. Or there's the waiting list is so long. Could be a year before you even get an appointment. So I just wanted to say that. I think when people are going through this with their children, young children or adult children, I should say, I don't think you can underestimate how difficult that is. It's very, very, it's a horrible situation that I wouldn't wish, on my worst enemy, let's say. Anyway, so yes, very sadly, that's a beautiful picture, isn't it? I can see why he's chosen that picture to put in his blog. Beautiful picture of him and his mum. My mum was my confidant and I was hers. We could talk to each other for hours about who was bothering us that particular week. Whenever I'd call her and she was in the middle of something or didn't have enough time to talk, she'd say, "Is this just a chit chat or is it an emergency?" If it wasn't an emergency, she always promised to call me back later, and she never forgot. Any time I was going through a tough time or had a complicated issue to hash out, I leaned on her brilliant perspective. I always felt like she was in my corner. I get my intolerance to bullshit from her and I love it. She was never afraid to tell the truth. She was also sensitive and always cared about everyone else before she thought about herself. She was really funny and she constantly complained about how nobody in the family thought she was. It always made me laugh when she'd say something sarcastic, and none of us would pick up on it because she sounded so genuine. She loved to laugh, and I always felt like the funniest person of all time around her because whenever I'd make a bad joke, she was oftentimes the only one who would laugh. To fully understand what we lost, my mother was the engine, the backbone, and the heart of our entire family, and not just our immediate family. She was the reason behind why we spent time with our extended family too. She was the one who planned every Thanksgiving, complained how it was too much work every year, vowed never to host again, and then promptly hosted it the following year. She was the one who planned every trip we ever took as a family, and she always planned it perfectly. She had a passion for life most people would wish they could attain. One of our things was going to see musicals together. We particularly loved Les Miserables, and we made sure to see it every time it came to Los Angeles. We used to laugh together in the car ride home because we somehow always forgot parts of the plot each time we'd see it. She'd be in the passenger seat saying, 19 years in prison over a loaf of bread, that's the whole premise? Despite that, one thing we never forgot were the incredible singing voices. My mum was the one who helped me move in and out of dorms and apartments at Syracuse University and continued to help me move in and out of apartments when I began my broadcasting career. Her support for me never wavered, and I always felt how much she loved me. I feel her presence everywhere, every single day. I miss her so much. I, I think Rob and Michele, they left a very positive legacy behind them. They shouldn't have left. They left too soon. Their lives were stolen from them. The last part of their lives was stolen from them. But they left a good legacy. And Nick, for whatever reason, may have hated them, not for real, genuine reasons, but for reasons, in his head, in his delusions. But their other two children loved them, and I just think they left a lovely legacy, and that's what should be remembered, not the way they died. The way my dad presented himself in the public eye was exactly the beautiful person he was at home. He was authentic, passionate, and his sense of humour has always been my sense of humour. My connection with him was first built on baseball. It was my grandfather's favourite sport, passed down to my dad and then to me. We loved the Dodgers more than anything. We went to so many damn games I'll never go to Dodger Stadium again without feeling my dad's presence and hearing his voice tell me why Shohei Ohtani, I don't know anything about the Dodgers, I've got to say, should never bat in the leadoff spot. That's obviously a famous player aspect. I hope I haven't butchered that pronunciation. When I was little, I would cry my eyes out when the Dodgers would lose a regular season game. And he'd say, "Buddy, you have to realize at some point that there are 162 games. It's going to be all right." He took me on baseball trips every summer, beginning when I was about 11 or 12. And eventually we made it to every ballpark around the majors. Another beautiful photograph. Oh, he looks like Nick on that photo. I've seen quite a few photos of Jake now, and on a lot of them, he doesn't. He look, you can see the resemblance, but I think on that particular photo, he looks very much like Nick. It's so sad that it's his own brother that has done this to him. My dad is my hero. I love how he would analyse my dreams, or how I felt I could come and talk to him about anything. No subject was ever off limits. Whenever I was in a difficult relationship, he would challenge me and say, "You need to really think about what draws you to a person like this. And once you figure that out and break that pattern, you'll find the person who is truly right for you." I'm proud to say I found that person in Maria, and I couldn't be more grateful that she had the chance to know and love my parents. Just like my mom, my dad also supported me in whatever I wanted to do with my life. I was nervous when I made the switch from broadcasting to acting because I didn't know how he'd react. I guess I should have known, because all he ever wanted was for me to be happy and love what I do. I wish he and I could have worked on a project together from start to finish. I miss him so much. And Nick, he did have that with Rob, didn't he? Nick worked on that project with him, with Rob. Rob funded it, I expect, helped it, facilitated it. The project where he talked about, battles with addiction, etc. I think, to me, I think Nick, he just is. Whatever Rob and Michele did for him, it would never have been enough, because he's entitled. Felt he was entitled to it. He didn't think, "Oh, thank you for doing that for me." It was like, "Yeah, you bloody well should do that for me. It's all your fault anyway, whatever wrong is in my life." Nick strikes me as one of those people. He would literally, if he saw it was raining outside, he'd be like, "Oh, that's my mum and dad's fault." It's not lost on me that I was able to have those incredible experiences most people don't get to have, because of who my parents were. But I would trade every Dodger game. Sorry, I am probably going to cry now. I would trade every Dodger game, every Broadway show, every vacation, if I could just spend. Sorry. Of course, these kind of things, they bring back your own losses, don't they? It's how little all those things, like financial things, material things, that always seem so important. But when you lose somebody, what you miss is them. So I would trade every Dodger game, every Broadway show, every vacation, if I could just spend one more hour talking to them and say goodbye. When you are not living through a tragedy the specific way Romy and I are, it's hard to wrap your head around just how horrific this has been. Because they weren't your parents, it might be easier to move forward or even forget for a moment about what happened that day. But for us, it's every single day. And this is what I often say, isn't it? I talk about lots of different cases, true crime, etc. But for us, at the end of the day, they are cases. We do get invested in them. We do care about the people we talk about. Of course we do. And it does affect us. But ultimately, when we wake up in the morning, it's not our mum and dad who have been murdered by our brother, or in other cases, people that are missing or something's happened to them. Although we care, and I don't know about you, but I think you all know that for me, yes, I do think about the cases, not only when I'm talking about them, things can bring them to mind, but even so, it doesn't affect my daily life in the sense of that it will be affecting the family's lives. That's what we always have to remember. There won't be a waking moment, and probably not even sleeping moments. He probably has dreams about it. There won't be a moment that Jake isn't thinking about his mum and dad and about everything. Every day since then has been horrendous. Every meeting we take, every person we talk to, every tear we shed, every movement we make is connected to our parents being murdered. That'll be just the only thing at the moment, because it's still not that long ago. I mean, hopefully, that will, over time, they say time heals all. It doesn't heal anything, of course. It doesn't heal it. It just time, you learn to cope with it, don't you? You learn to live with it. So every meeting we take, every person we talk to, every tear we shed, every movement we make is connected to our parents being murdered. In the middle of trying to process the most devastating moment of your life, the world demands meetings, paperwork, decisions, and explanations, as if documentation must come before mourning. My goal in writing this piece is to offer some insight, not only to what I lost, but also to celebrate what my parents meant to me. A lot of people have said to me, I don't even know what to say, and I don't blame them. If I weren't in the middle of this shitstorm, I wouldn't know what to say either. It's too specific, too dark. We lost more than half of our family that night in the most violent way imaginable. Sure, any loss of a parent is devastating, but nothing compares to losing both of them at the same time, and on top of that, having your brother be at the centre of it. It's almost too impossible to process. I understand that people have questions about what happened, and some of those answers will come in time. But some parts of this belong only to our family, and keeping them private is the only way to protect what little remains of something that was taken from us. Not even the dog's got something to say about it. What the hell do you say to someone who is living through this reality? The truth is, there is nothing to say. I just ask for love and compassion. The same principles my parents lived by. And there he is again with his parents. And well, that's what, we have done before, but I think, that's what I'm going to do now at the end of this video. Send out love and compassion to Jake. And he's right. What do you say? What do you say to someone? It's hard enough when anybody loses someone, in a natural bereavement, if you like. It is the nature of things for us to lose our parents. That is part of the circle of life, but not in this way. And not only in this violent, horrible way, but to have the brother, his own brother. You know, what do you say? It's hard enough to know what to say when someone loses people in what you might call a normal or natural way, isn't it? You know, it's very difficult. People people don't know how to cope with people have been bereaved at the best of times, do they? You know, if you someone you know and you know they've lost someone, it's very difficult, isn't it, to know what to say? And so in this particular case, it's even more difficult. So I just wanted to read that out. I think it's beautifully written from the heart, and I hope it's helped him. You know, I personally am a person that I do feel better when I get things out on paper, but I say feel better. You know, nothing's going to change this situation. It's never going to feel good. As I say, time doesn't heal. It's just that with time, you just learn how to cope. And I hope that Jake, you know, when he finally has a family of his own, although it'd be sad because, you know, he'd be thinking of how Michele and Rob have never got to meet his children. But children do help you because you have somebody else then to worry about, think about. And, you know, Jake's got a lot of life left. And I hope it's going to be a happy one, regardless or despite this terrible tragedy that he's suffering through. So, yeah. So rest in peace, Michele and Rob. I hope they're watching from the other side, watching over. You know, the thing is what you feel from Rob and Michele. They're not only they'll be watching over Jake and Romy, but they'll be worrying about Nick as well. Because they loved Nick. They tried their very best to help him. And sadly, they couldn't. You know, even with all their resources, financial resources. That just shows you, you know, mental health. It's a killer. You know, that's what I always say. It's just as big as a killer, if not a bigger one, than cancer or physical illnesses that kill people. Mental illness kills people too. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this case and especially about Jake. And I hope he just finds a way through it all. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Bye.